West, the person who is organizing this year's Seuss-a-Thon. This is our 10th annual Seuss-a-Thon. And the Seuss-a-Thon is a collaborative project involving the Children's Literature Program in the English department at UNC Charlotte and all of the fine folks at Park Road Books. We've been working together on this annual event, actually, as you would expect if it's 10th annual one, for 10 years now. In the past Seuss-a-Thons, we did them live. And we would have people come and read Dr. Seuss books aloud, and the children would sit on the little chairs and on the carpet and listen to the Dr. Seuss books being read in a marathon fashion, oftentimes lasting for a full 4 hours. But because of the pandemic, we are not able to have the live Seuss-a-Thon, but we're not abandoning the whole project. This year, we're doing it as a virtual event. So this is a virtual Seuss-a-Thon featuring recordings of people reading some of their favorite Dr. Seuss books. This year, we will feature 20 of Dr. Seuss's classic children's books. Dr. Seuss wrote many children's books over the course of his long career, but we have focused on 20 of them that span his career, from the beginning of his career to actually books recorded after his death. In addition to the books that he wrote, he also played an important role in the creation of beginner books, books with easy vocabularies that children could use in order to develop the skills to be independent readers. Dr. Seuss started this whole process when he wrote his classic book, The Cat in the Hat. The Cat in the Hat is a book with a limited vocabulary, but it's a fun story that kids can learn how to read on their own and enjoy because it's an entertaining story. People like me, I grew up in my generation learning how to read with the Dick and Jane books. Dick and Jane books were easy to read, but they were hardly worth reading because they were so boring. In fact, Dr. Seuss wrote The Cat in the Hat as kind of an alternative to the boring Dick and Jane books. From there, Dr. Seuss went on to do other easy-to-read books, but he also ran a whole publishing division in which other people also wrote easy-to-read books. And in so doing, he helped open up the whole world of literacy to children, help them become independent readers. And as such, he played a great service to the world of children's literature. Now, as you no doubt have heard, some of Dr. Seuss's early children's books, the ones that he did during the 1930s and 40s, have recently become controversial because in those books, he included some unfortunate stereotypes that figure in a line here or an illustration there. As a result, 6 of his early books, including his very first children's book, And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street, are no longer going to be published. But for this Seuss-a-Thon, only one of those 6 books is included in this year's Seuss-a-Thon, virtual Seuss-a-Thon, and that is his book, If I Ran the Zoo. If I Ran the Zoo is being read on this virtual Seuss-a-Thon by a colleague of mine, Dr. Alan Rauch. Dr. Alan Rauch, in addition to being an English professor, is also a zoologist. And he has always read at the Seuss-a-Thon If I Ran the Zoo, because it gives them an opportunity to talk about animals and zoology, and he loves to talk about animals and zoology. And so he has recorded a version of If I Ran the Zoo for this year's Seuss-a-Thon. I should point out, though, that he has omitted the line in the illustration that has caused the book to recently become controversial. If you wish to see the book with the omitted lines included, the book is still available, and you can certainly check it out at a library or acquire it in some other way. But this year's Seuss-a-Thon does not actually include that particular passage. Nonetheless, I do hope that the controversy surrounding Dr. Seuss that just erupted recently does not lessen our appreciation or love of Dr. Seuss. He is a great icon in the world of American children's literature, and our Seuss-a-Thon provides us with an opportunity to celebrate his great children's books. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the recordings of these books. I also want to thank the people at Park Road Books for helping us organize this event, and I especially want to thank Ashley Lewis. She is the person that put in a tremendous amount of time and effort into making the virtual Seuss-a-Thon a reality. So Ashley, thank you for everything that you've done to make the Seuss-a-Thon a reality. And now, let's sit back and enjoy the world of Dr. Seuss. Thank you.
Hello, my friends. My name is Tree. I know I've got the hat on, but I'm not the cat in the hat. But I am here today to spend some time with you and to share with you in the celebration of Dr. Seuss's birthday. Theodore Geisel, or Dr. Seuss, was born on March 2nd, 1904. And today we are celebrating his amazing birthday and all of the amazing books he wrote by sharing those books with you. And so today I get to share one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books with you. Now, I have a lot of favorite Dr. Seuss books, but this happens to be one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books. This is Horton Hatches the Egg. Now wait, Horton, he looks like an elephant. Do elephants lay eggs? I wonder. Horton Hatches the Egg by Dr. Seuss. Sighed Maisie, a lazy bird hatching an egg. I'm tired and I'm bored, and I've kinks in my leg from just sitting here day after day. It's work. How I hate it. I'd much rather play. I'd take a vacation, fly off for a rest, if I could find someone to stay on my nest. If I could find someone, I'd fly away free. Then Horton, the elephant, passed by the tree. Hello, called the lazy bird, smiling her best. You've nothing to do, and I do need a rest. Would you like to sit on the egg in my nest? Would you take him up on that offer? The elephant laughed. Why, of all silly things, I haven't feathers and I haven't wings. Me on your egg? Why, that doesn't make sense. Your egg is so small, ma'am, and I'm so immense. Tut, tut, answered Maisie. I know you're not small, but I'm sure you can do it. No trouble at all. Just sit on it softly. You're gentle and kind. Come, be a good fellow. I know you won't mind. I can't, said the elephant. Please, begged the bird. I won't be long, sir. I give you my word. I'll hurry right back. Why, I'll never be missed. Very well, said the elephant, since you insist. You want a vacation? Go fly off and take it. I'll sit on your egg and I'll try not to break it. I'll stay and be faithful. I mean what I say. Toodaloo, sang out Maisie and fluttered away. The first thing to do, muttered Horton. Let's see. The first thing to do is to prop up this tree and make it much stronger. That has to be done before I get on it. I must weigh a ton. Then carefully, tenderly, gently he crept up the trunk to the nest where the little egg slept. Then Horton the elephant smiled. Now that's that. And he sat, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat. And he sat all day, and he kept the egg warm, and he sat all night through a terrible storm. It poured and it lightened, it thundered, it rumbled. This isn't much fun, the poor elephant grumbled. I wish she'd come back, 'cause I'm cold and I'm wet. I hope that Maisie bird doesn't forget. But Maisie, by this time, was far beyond reach, enjoying the sunshine way off in Palm Beach, and having such fun such a wonderful rest. Decided she'd never go back to her nest. So Horton kept sitting there day after day, and soon it was autumn, and the leaves blew away. And then came the winter, the snow and the sleet, and icicles hung from his trunk and his feet. But Horton kept sitting and said with a sneeze, "I'll stay on this egg and I won't let it freeze." I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. And elephant is faithful 100%. So poor Horton sat there the whole winter through. And then came the springtime with trouble anew. His friends gathered round and they shouted with glee, "Look! Horton the elephant is up a tree." They taunted, they teased him, they yelled, "How absurd! Old Horton the elephant thinks he's a bird." They laughed and they laughed. Then they all ran away, and Horton was lonely. He wanted to play. But he sat on the egg and he continued to say, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. And elephant is faithful 100%. No matter what happens, that egg must be tended. But poor Horton's troubles were far, far from ended. For while Horton sat there, so faithful, so kind, the hunters were sneaking up softly behind. He heard the men's footsteps. He turned with a start. The rifles were aiming right at his heart. Oh no! Did he run? He did not. Horton stayed on the nest. He held his head high and he threw out his chest and he looked at the hunters as much as to say, shoot if you must, but I won't run away. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. And elephant is faithful, 100%. But the men didn't shoot, much to Horton's surprise. They dropped their 3 guns, and they stared with wide eyes. Look, they all shouted, can such a thing be? An elephant sitting on top of a tree? It's strange, it's amazing, it's wonderful new. Don't shoot him, we'll catch him. That's just what we'll do. Let's take him alive. Why, he's terribly funny. We'll sell him back home to a circus for money. Oh, and the first thing he knew, they had built a wagon with ropes on the front for pullers to drag on. They dug up his tree and they put it inside with Horton so sad he practically cried. We're off, the men shouted, and off they all went with Horton unhappy 100%. Up out of the jungle, up into the sky, up over the mountains, 10,000 feet high. Then down the mountains and down to the sea went the cart with the elephant, egg, nest, and tree. Then out of the wagon and onto a ship, out over the ocean, and what a trip. Rolling and tossing and splashed with spray. And Horton said, day after day after day, I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant is faithful, 100%. After bobbing around for 2 weeks like a cork, they landed at last in the town of New York. All ashore, the men shouted, and down with a lurch went Horton the elephant, still on his perch, tied onto a board that could just scarcely hold him. Bump, Horton landed, and then the men sold him. Sold to a circus. Then week after week, They showed him to people at 10 cents a peek. They took him to Boston, to Kalamazoo, Chicago, Weehawken, and Washington too, to Dayton, Ohio, St. Paul, Minnesota, to Wichita, Kansas, to Drake, North Dakota, and everywhere thousands of folks flocked to see and laughed at the elephant up in the tree. Poor Horton grew sadder the further he went, and he said as he sat in the hot, noisy tent, I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant is faithful 100%. Then, one day, the circus show happened to reach a town way down south, not so far from Palm Beach. And dawdling along, way up in the sky, who, of all people, should chance to fly by? But that old, good-for-nothing bird runaway Maisie, still on vacation and still just as lazy, and spying the flags and tents just below, she sang out, why, what fun! I'll go to the show. And she swooped from the clouds through an open tent door. Good gracious, gasped Maisie. I've seen you before. But Horton looked up with his face white as chalk. He started to speak, but he just couldn't talk. There rang out the noisiest, ear-splitting squeaks from the egg that he'd sat on for 51 weeks. A thumping, a bumping, a wild alive scratching. My egg, shouted Horton. My egg, why, it's hatching. But it's mine, screamed the bird when she heard the egg crack. The work was all done, so now she wanted it back. It's my egg, she sputtered. You stole it from me. Get off of my nest and get out of my tree. Poor Horton backed down with a heavy heart. But at that very instant, the egg burst apart. Oh my goodness. And out of the pieces of red and white shell from the egg he had sat on so long and so well. Horton the elephant saw something whiz. It had ears and a tail and a trunk just like his. And the people came shouting, "What's all this about?" They looked and they stared with their eyes popping out. Then they cheered and they cheered and they cheered more and more. They'd never seen anything like it before. "My goodness, my gracious," they shouted. "My word, it's something brand new. It's an elephant bird." And it should be like that, because Horton was faithful. He sat and he sat. He meant what he said, and he said what he meant. And do you know what he said? And they sent him home happy 100%. And that, my friends, is the end of Horton Hatches the Egg by Dr. Seuss. I hope you enjoyed that story, and I hope you show a little bit of perseverance of your own. If you believe in something, you can do it. And so, happy birthday, Dr. Seuss, and goodbye, my friends.
Hi, everybody, and happy birthday, Dr. Seuss. I'm going to be reading If I Ran the Zoo. My name is Alan, and I will be disappearing every now and then because the screen will disappear. But I'll also be joined by a few animals, so it's up to you to guess which animal is going to be writing and reading with me. So here we go. The lions and tigers and that kind of stuff they have up here now are not quite good enough. You see things like these in any old zoo. They're awfully old-fashioned. I want something new. So I'd open each cage, I'd unlock every pen, let the animals go, and I'd start over again. And somehow or other, I think I could find some beasts of a much more unusual kind, like this one. Four-footed lion is not much of a beast. The one in my zoo will have 10 feet, at least. 5 legs on the left, 5 legs on the right. Then people will stare and they'll say, "What a sight." The zookeeper, new keeper, Gerald's quite keen. That's the gall-darnest lion that I've ever seen. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people talk. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people gawk. At the strangest odd creatures that ever did walk, I'll get for my zoo a new sort of hen who roosts in another's hen's topknot, and then another one roosts on the topknot of his, and another in his, and another in his, and so forth, and upward and onward. Gee whiz. And there are the hens. Whoops. Disappearing, but there they are. There are the hens. And and they just disappeared entirely, but you get to see my friend who says who. That's just a start. I'll do better than that. They'll see me next day in my zookeeper's hat, coming into my zoo with an elephant cat. They'll be so surprised they'll all swallow their gum. They'll ask when they see my strange animals come, where do you suppose he gets things like that from? His animals have such very odd faces. I'll bet he must find them in all sorts of places. And that's what I'll do, said young Gerald McGrew. If you want to catch beasts you don't see every day, you have to go places quite out of the way. You have to go places that no others can get to. You have to get cold and you have to get wet to. Up past the North Pole where the frozen winds squeal, I'll go and hunt in my Squeaglemobile. And there's the Squeaglemobile. Whoops, we're not going to see the Squeaglemobile. And bring back a family of what do you know, and that's how my new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will grow. I'll hunt in the mountains of zombie Matant with helpers who all wear their eyes askance, and capture a fine fluffy bird called the bustard who only eat custard with sauce made of mustard, and also a very fine beast called the flustered who only eats mustard with a sauce made of custard. I'll catch them in caves, I'll catch them in brooks, I'll catch them in crannies, I'll catch them in nooks that you can't read about in geography books. I'll catch them in countries that no one can spell, like the country of Mata Fapata Fatel. In a country like that, if a hunter is clever, he'll hunt up some beasts that you never saw ever. And sometimes you have to go to the ocean to find a beast like this one. I'll load up 5 boats with a family of jotes whose feet are like cows but wear squirrel skin coats, and sit down like dogs but have voices like goats, excepting they can't sing some very high notes. I think this guy could sing some high notes. And then I'll go down to the wilds of Nantucket and capture a family of lunks in a bucket. Then people will say, now I like that boy heaps. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is growing by leaps. He captures them wild, and he captures them meek. He captures them slim, and he captures them sleek. What do you suppose he will capture next week? And what do you suppose you'll see up here next? I'll capture one tiny, I'll capture one cute. I'll capture a deer that no hunter would shoot. A deer that's so nice he could sleep in your bed if it weren't for the horns that he has on his head. And these are not horns, they're antlers. And speaking of horns or antlers that are just a bit queer, I'll bring back a very odd family of deer, a mother, a father, 2 sisters, a brother, whose horns are connected from one to the other, whose horns are so mixed they can't tell them apart, can't tell where they end, and can't tell where they start. Each deer's mighty puzzled. He's never yet found if his horns are hers or the other way around. I'll capture them fat and I'll capture them scrawny. I'll capture a scragglefoot mulligatawny, a high-stepping animal fast as the wind from the blistering sands of the deserts of Zend. This beast is the beast that the brave chieftains ride when they want to go fast to find some place to hide. Mulligatawny is fine for my zoo, and so's a chieftain. I'll bring back one too. This is not a mulligatawny. It's an animal from Canada. In the far west part of southeast North Dakota lives a very fine animal called the iota, but I'll capture one who is even much finer in the northeast west part of South Carolina. People will see him, they'll say, now by thunder, this new zoo, Magruzu, is really a wonder. Most beasts are quite friendly, but still in some lands, some beasts are too dangerous to catch with bare hands. For those that are ugly and vicious and mean, I'll build a bad animal catching machine. It's rather expensive to build such a kit, but with it a hunter can never get bit. This guy can be a little mean if you know what he is. A zoo should have bugs, so I'll capture a thwirl whose legs are snarled up in a terrible snarl. And then I'll go out and I'll capture some chugs, some keen shooter, mean shooter, bean shooter bugs. I'll go to the African island of Yurka and bring back a tizzle-topped, tufted mazurka. A kind of canary with quite a tall throat. His neck is so long, if he swallows a note for breakfast, the first day of April, they say, it has to go down such a very long way that it gets to his stomach on the 15th of May. This animal is no bug, but I'll bag a big bug who's very surprising, a feller who has a propeller for rising and zooming around, making cross-country hops from Texas to Boston with only 2 stops. Now that sort of thing for a bug is just tops. And when I've caught him, the next thing you know, I'll go and I'll capture a wild tic-tac-toe with X's that win and with zeros that lose. He'll look very good in this new zoo of McGrews. I'll bring back a gusset, a gherkin, a gasket, and also a gooch from the wilds of Nantasket. And 8 Persian princes will carry the basket, but what their names are, I don't know, so don't ask it. I know what's in this little pouch there, and that's called a joey. In a cave in Khartoum lives a beast called a natch, and no other hunter's been able to catch. He's hidden for years in his cave with a pout, and no one's been able to make him come out. But I'll coax him with some wonderful meal that's cooked by my cooks in my cooker mobile. They'll fix up a dish that's just to his taste, 3 chicken croquettes made of library paste, then sprinkled with peanut butter chunks, spickled and spiced, then baked at 600 degrees and then iced. It's a mighty hard cooking to cook up such feasts, but that's how the new zoo, Magruzu, gets beasts. I'll go to the faraway mountains of Topsk, near the river of Nopsk, and I'll bring back an Opsk, a sort of kind of thingamabobsk, who only eats rhubarb and corn on the Kopsk. Then people will flock to my zoo in Amopsk. McGrew, they will say, does a wonderful jobsk. He hunts with such vim and such vigor he hunts. His new zoo, McGrew zoo, gets bigger and bigger. And speaking of birds, there's the Russian Palusky. Hedsky is Redsky and Belly is Bluesky. I'll get one of them for my Zooski, Magruski. Then the whole town will gasp. This boy never sleeps. No keeper ever kept what this young boy keeps. There's no telling what this young fellow will do. And then I'll show them. I'll sail to Katru, and I'll bring back an Itkach, a Preep and a Prue, a Nurgle, a Nerd, and a seersucker too. I'll hunt in the jungles of Hippo Nahungus and bring back a flock of wild Bippo Nobungus. The Bippo Nobungus from Hippo Nahungus are better than those in Dippo Daunungus, and smarter than those and the Nippo than Nungus. And I'll catch them in Hippo Nohungus instead of those others in Nungus and Dungus. And the people will say when they see these bips bounding, this zookeeper, new keeper, is simply astounding. He travels so far that you'd think he would drop. When do you suppose this young fellow will stop? Stop? Well, I should, but I won't stop until I've captured the Fizzamawizzle Madill, the world's biggest bird from the island of Gwark, who only eats pine trees and spits out the bark. And boy, when I get him back home to my park, the world will say young McGrew made his mark, and he's built a zoo better than Noah's whole ark. These wonderful, marvelous beasts that he chooses have made him the greatest of all the McGrewses. Wow, they'll all cheer. What this zoo must be worth. It's the galldarnest zoo on the face of the earth. Yes, that's what I'll do, said young Gerald McGrew. I'll make a few changes. If I ran the zoo.
Hi, my name is Sarah Whincello, and today I will be reading Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Knoll, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great views, when Horton the elephant heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing, he looked toward the sound. That's funny, thought Horton. There's no one around. Then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some tiny person were calling for help. I'll help you, said Horton. But who are you? Where? He looked and he looked. He could see nothing there, but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air. I say, murmured Horton, I never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. You know what I think? Why, I think that there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust. Some sort of creature of very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in the pool. He has no way to steer. I'll just have to save him because, after all, a person's a person, no matter how small. So gently and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the dust speck and carried it over and placed it down safe on a small little clover. Humph, huffed a voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said humph too. Why, that speck is as small as the head of a pin. A person on that? Why, there never has been. Believe me, said Horton, I tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen and I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's two, even three, even four. Quite likely a family, for all that we know, a family with children just starting to grow. So please, Horton said, as a favor to me, try not to disturb them. Just please let them be. I think you're a fool, laughed the sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. You're the biggest blamed fool in the jungle of Knoll, and the kangaroos plunged in the cool of the pool. What a terrible splashing, the elephant frowned. I can't let my very small persons get drowned. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they. So he plucked up the clover and hustled away. Through the high jungle treetops, the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck? He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with that speck on that flower. And Horton walked worrying almost an hour. Should I put this speck down? Horton thought with alarm. If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't after all. A person's a person, no matter how small. Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. A voice was so faint he could just barely hear it. Speak up, please, said Horton. He puts his ear near it. My friend, came the voice, you're a very fine friend. You've helped all us folks on this dust speck no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings and floors. You've saved all our churches and grocery stores. You mean, Horton gasped, you have buildings there too? Oh yes, piped the voice, we most certainly do. I know, called the voice, I'm too small to be seen, but I'm mayor of a town that is friendly and clean. Our buildings to you would seem terribly small, but to us who aren't big, they seem wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, for I am a Who, and we Whos are all thankful and grateful to you. And Horton called back, the mayor of the town, you're safe now, don't worry, I won't let you down. But just as he spoke, the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, what rot! This elephant's talking to Whos who are not. There aren't any Whos, they don't have a mayor, and we're going to stop all this nonsense. So there. They snatched Horton's clover, they carried it off to a black-bottomed eagle, Vladikov, a mighty strong eagle of very soft wing, swift wing. And they said, will you kindly get rid of this thing? And before the poor elephant even could speak, that eagle flew off with the flower in his beak. All that late afternoon and far into the night, the black-bottomed bird with his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones, and tattered his toenails and battered his bones, and begged, please don't harm all my little folks who have as much right to live as us bigger folks do. But far, far beyond him, that eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back, quit your yapping. I'll fly the night through, I'm a bird, I don't mind, and I'll hide this tomorrow where you'll never find it. And at 6:56 the next morning he did. It sure was a terrible place that he hid it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. Find that, sneered the bird, but I think you will fail, and he left with a flip of the back-bottom tail. I'll find it, cried Horton. I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on that small speck of dust. And clover by clover by clover with care, he picked up and searched them and called, are you there? But clover by clover by clover he found, the one that he sought was just not around. And by noon poor old Horton, more dead than alive, had picked, searched, and piled up 9,005. Then on through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last on the 3 millionth flower. My friends, cried the elephant, tell me, do tell, are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well? From down on the speck came the voice of the mayor. We've really had trouble, much more than our share, when that black-bottomed birdie let us go as we dropped. We landed so hard that our clocks have all stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, and our bicycle tires all blew up when we crashed. So Horton, please, pleaded that voice of the mayor's, will you stick by us who's while we're making repairs? Of course, Horton answered, of course I will stick. I'll stick to you small folks through thin and through thick. Humph, huffed a voice. For almost 2 days, you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who've never existed. Such carryings on in our peaceable jungle, we've had quite enough of your bellowing bungle. And I'm here to state, snapped the big kangaroo, that your silly nonsensical game is all through. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. With the help of the Wickersham brothers and dozens, of Wickersham uncles and Wickersham cousins, and the Wickersham in-laws, whose help I've engaged, we're going to be roped and you're going to be caged. And as for your dustbeck, ha, that we shall boil in a hot steaming kettle of bezelnut oil. Boil it, gasped Horton. Oh, that you can't do. It's all full of persons. They'll prove it to you. Mr. Mayor, Horton called, Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you are really there. So call a big meeting, get everyone out, make every who holler, make every who shout, make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in a bezelnut stew. And down on the dustbeck, the scared little mayor quick called a big meeting in Whoville Town Square, and his people cried loudly. They cried out in fear, we are here, we are here, we are here, we are here. The elephant smiled, that was clear as a bell. You kangaroos surely heard that very well. All I heard, snapped the big kangaroo, was the breeze and the faint sound of a wind through the far distant trees. I heard no small voices, and you didn't either. And the kangaroo in her pouch said, me neither. Grab him, they shouted, and cage the big dope. Lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots tight so he'll never shake loose. Then dump that dumb speck in the bezelnut juice. Horton fought back to it with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang, there was too many of them. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him to his cage. But he managed to call to the mayor, don't give up, I believe in you all. A person's a person, no matter how small. And you very small persons will not have to die if you make yourselves heard. So come on now and try. The mayor grabbed a tom-tom and started to smack it, and all over Whoville they whooped up a racket. They rattled tin kettles, they beat on brass pans, on garbage pail tops and old cranberry cans. They blew on bazookas and blasted great toots, on clarinets, oompas and boompas and flutes. Great gusts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky. And the mayor called up through the howling mad hullabaloo, hey, Horton, how's this? Is our sound coming through? And Horton called back, I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't quite as strong as mine. They don't hear a thing. Are you sure all your boys are doing their best? Are all making noise? Are you sure every who down in Whoville is working? Quick, look through your town. Is there anyone shirking? Through the town rushed the mayor from east to the west, but everyone seemed to be doing his best. Everyone seemed to be yapping or yipping. Everyone seemed to be beeping or bipping. And it wasn't enough, all this ruckus and roar. He had to find someone to help him make more. He raced through each building. He searched floor to floor. And just as he felt he was getting nowhere and almost about to give up in despair, he suddenly burst through a door, and that mayor discovered one shirker, quite hidden away in the Fairfax Apartments, apartment 12J, and a very small shirker named Jojo was standing, just standing and bouncing a yo-yo, not making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp. And the mayor rushed inside and he grabbed the young twerp. And he climbed with the lad up the Eiffelberg Tower. This, cried the mayor, is your town's darkest hour, the time for all who's who have blood that is red, to come to the aid of their country, he said. We've got to make noises in greater amounts, so open your mouth, lad, for every voice counts. Thus he spoke as he climbed. When they got to the top, the lad cleared his throat and he shouted, "Yop!" And that yop, that one small extra yop put it over. Finally, at last, from that speck on the clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clear and clean, and the elephant smiled. Do you see what I mean? They proved they are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all. How true, yes, how true, said the big kangaroo. And from now on, you know what I'm planning to do? From now on, I'm going to protect them with you. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. From sun in the summer, from rain when it's fallish, I'm going to protect them, no matter how smallish. Thank you. That has been a reading of Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss.
I am Ashley Woods, and this is my big brother. And William Poplar. How old are you? 5? I'm 10. You're 5. Awesome. Today, we're going to be reading to you if I Ran the Circus by Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is pretty funny. I'm going to line up you work so well. Don't try it like this. I Ran the Circus. In all the things happen, the most wonderful stuff is behind scenes too. In the big naked room. It's just the right spot for my room. Said young Doris Mother. Yeah, I've made up the hands. There's the big wonderful thing. It's one. Now, get rid of this. You chop down the tree. You haul off the cars. They're just too pretty. Then the whole place will be ready. Big problem is me. Failure in this school. All the way to go. I think I will follow the circus McGurkus. Yeah. The circus McGurkus, the world's greatest show on the face of the earth. Over Circus McGurkus. The circus McGurkus, the green. The circus McGurkus, the circus green. The circus McGurkus, colossal, stupendous, astounding, fantastic, terrific, tremendous. First patterns from 1,030 far away. The place that we see right behind City School and right near tennis. And don't be always so. I mean, to be certain, and the wonders. After all, this is good. We built our jobs. Which is good. And then I'll be ready to open it. 500 pounds. So we can explode. It's sure that there's a lot of things. 500 calories to be eliminated. It's a lot. Of course, it's so much. Yeah. What? It's not the cookies. And my circus McGurkus will back with a welcoming cheek on my welcoming finger that I am going to be eat from the jungles of joy. The very best quality. Because the very fresh air is fine. And some of those feathers have 2 or 3 tongues. Big horns and monkeys, the musical monkeys. The jungle of joy. This way, step right in. This way, baby. My sideshow starts here in the first night. When you see it goes on, you'll see no other circus. The great circus and circus and circus. When you see what goes on, you'll see no other circus is happening. Here on stage 1, most amazing. A wall with same wall. We can stand on wonders. This wonderful wall on the top of the platforms. 2 pretend bed. This off the word nose. And on stage number 2, here is something. In the country, this is drum and snow. It's on 18 right here. Doesn't hurt nothing. This is drum and snow. This amazing balancing walrus. The amazing balancing walrus on 2 tennis balls and 3 golf balls. Sometimes I was quite young, so it doesn't even feel it when you dance and it's going to be home. And now the remarkable, consistent colors that fall off the moon. And the reason he likes red is he greatly enjoys blowing smoke from his ears. Of course, colors like this. Let's see. Sure. It's small. That is a small thing to you. Through that huge thing. That's a big thing. A huge thing of moon rocks. It's enormous. That is a chocolate. That's right. And that stage level thing. It's really. Well, you can wallow. You can wallow. Yeah. Let's start. In the stage number 4. Sure, you won't know. You can go to walk with Brian K. Lasso. No? You don't think so? Maybe we should ask him first. And now here is a bucket. And this is his painting. Can't we? Well, folks, let me tell you, there's only one circus with a weak footed movies. The circus, mud circus. Let me see. Is that yeah. The show of all shows. There's no other show who shows you a show with blindfolded woman. A blindfolded woman and river top the world's sharpest sharpshooter. Look at him shoot. With the holes in 4 domes, 2 hairs on wool, just and the knees of 3 birds without making them squirm. And then on the crest through the donuts, through the ears of the worm, beneath the birds, right on to see what's in. Would you let somebody shoot after the maybe? Scary. Now, come to this where the swamp is. You will see in the swamp. You'll chocolate job. You can choose stuff you might not even know, such as 22 question marks, which is about 4 commas and also 1 dot. That's kind of you found it. Well done. That one was so cool. That's the kind of circus I. You'll see if the people only 1 dot. Juggling all those question marks and commas. 1 dot. Well, that's just my summation. A start, a beginning. This leads to the beat. You'll find your head spinning. Why, ladies and gentlemen, youngsters and oldsters, that's what quite likely spin right off your shoulders. So hurry, step lively, quick, ladies and gents. You get into your seats, and my teeth are all tense, like wait for all parades. I'm never going to you'll see drum major smooth, playing on, and like organ, your verse. With its singing pipes. Oh, hey, there's Sweetheart again. With its singing pipes, brass flutes, and throwing all sorts of snorts in a bubbly thing. That is a super stupendous, tremendous 2 words. And then I could please join me for showing the big organ. Yeah, it is. It's really big. Look at tiny things. Oh, and Grinch. Yeah, he does have something really similar to him. Then A fluff muffled fire will ride on a hook. Next moment, flummox. The flummox will appear and lurch in the face, and the fiddle will appear in the flummox's foot, while on top of it, three birds in the snow will flame ready flames of their three snuffer, while bolster goes loose on the three muzzle user, and most of these scoops on the one muzzle user. And then comes the lion, who partly is out. Then more stuff for 45 minutes. Now, look, there's a lion who's partially a trout. Yeah, we have a lion head and a trout tail. And very similar. That's a good thing. And then behind them, the twins. Well, everyone stares. Come my two and one. I'm so glad. What are we going to do? Okay, you ready? Can you listen to me? And then, behind them, then, as everyone says, from the two different marchers, we march in five years. The crows marching in twos and the twos in the three crows. Don't know how they do it, but that's on levels. The two crow marchers. I guess. And now comes an act of enormous new formers perform this performance. No form performance. And now comes an act of enormous. No former performers perform this. The stunt is too rapidly slipping with bright vision blue. Down to the top of the team, like this speaking to pots full of blocks of big foolish trees. Finds a man, what a man! And his roller skates, and he steered without fear anymore. And it's Sleepwalk, the man who gets chance after chance. And he won't even with a small hole in his face. All stories. That would be very true. Look at maybe they do look like that. Yeah, except they're too big for you. Dr. Seuss has named these stickles. They're made of emotion. And now here in this cage is a beast most ferocious. Who's known far and wide as the spotted atrocious. Growls and howls and yowls the most blood-curdling sounds, and each tooth in his mouth is at least 60 pounds. And he chews up and eats with the greatest teeth, things like carpets and silence and people and trees. But the great Colonel's name is just the right term. I'm sure he won't mind. Yeah. Listen, we connected that to stairs. It's a diving board. Think he's gonna dive in his mouth? No. Then I'll let some coffee for a few minutes rest while high over the fence you will see the best place. The world's finest faces, breeze and traffic. Once in the future, the best cover. You should make it so basic. Yeah, I don't know. Remember, don't It's bright spaces, leaves and tracks. You see the picture from the upper pages. Never put no lines, they do. Whether which will catch one, or who will catch whom. Or who will catch which, or what, and just where, or just when, and just how, and just part of the hair. All swinging to a harvest. Well, not for them. Oh, why do you think you're so good? Well, we think yeah, right. I the circus. My circus is a purpose. My workers love work. They work us, please work us. We'll see, we'll work and we'll work us. So many surprises you've never seen after you've had 3 eyes. Look, we like, boom. He shot it out of the cannon and into a net. Let's just see on this page. Which is elephant 4. Look, there's our cannon. And 4 elephants on 1 elephant. Wow. And now, again, Sneelock. Great Sneelock is back. Twisting right on the into the right twisting track. While the speedsters had all back to the hidden illusions, race around and swift cars called them racing. And Sneelock just lies there, not one minute silent. They don't know why. They'll be simply delighted. Well, no, that looks pretty scary. But you might get hurt. You won't get hurt. Mm-hmm. That is your Sneelock just laying on the track. There's nothing more to Sneelock. Yeah, okay. Great. There he is. And here in that context, strength and muscle. It's Sneelock, the champ of all champs, will now tussle and the rest of the prison gas. And spell him around. And just slam him down fast. Oh, we didn't show you. Look at this crazy beast that Sneelock has to wrestle. He's enormous. And he won. And he won. It's incredible. I'm sure Sneelock just loved it. Meanwhile, that goes on there. Look at this one here. That bird in that bird. Jumping. Here, Chelsea Bills have another coming up. While his ones are also jumping through at the same time as well. And here's his ones also are being jumped through by another who's having his sports jump through too, which I'm sure triggers some interest. Easy, easy. All of the deer jumping through the horns of the other deer. That is incredible. Then the whole tent will ring with great and loud shouts. When I live in my woods and they twirl on their spouts. First, my wing number 1, with an aim that aims true, stops a spout that spouts smooth to whale number 2. And then whale number 2 spouts a spout like a gun. And then that spout spouts a smooth right back to whale 1. And then forwards and backwards, spout after spout. My great spouting raider Sneelock gets spouted about. Just as long as the ball of their spout is out. And forth, back and forth. Or maybe then turning, the gates were not here. Sir Hector, Sir Victor, Sir Fox, and Sir Peters, Sir Hawkins, Sir Jocks, and Sir Jeers are into the tent. And while everyone cheers, the stage roustabout joust with their foxes. Those foxes, I've never seen rats joust with foxes before. And you? This all this one rats goes up the road. At the top of the tent, look, the star at my shoulder. With Daredevil city like the world's greatest kite becomes cold through the air and super inside on a day's contraction that just kite. And while people know for all turning to point, no woman of dreams of the night. Great Sweetheart soars up to a terrible height. The kids show him the higher view. He's so high. It's so high, I'm scared too. It wouldn't be. He's so brave. Then he shakes himself loose. He starts down in a dime, such as no man on earth could come out of a lot. But he smiles as he falls, and no fear as he feels. His nerves are made iron, his muscles like steel. With muscles, oh yeah, like that, muscles like steel. And he plunges down, with his ears still complete 4,690 feet. Yeah. What? No way. No way. Let's show them how far he has to jump. All the way into, then he'll land in a fish bowl. Look at that fish bowl he's gonna land in. He'll manage just fine. Well, that's his job, or mine. Why? He'll be a hero. Of course he will. When he finds he has a big circus. There we are again, back at the vacant lot of the Sneaky Rock store. That, my friend, is me. What am I saw a Bible on the foot. Your imagination was getting very excited and thinking silly things just like that. What was it? Hi! Thanks for having story time with us. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Moran and I am reading The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss. The sun did not shine, it was too wet to play, so we sat in the house all that cold, cold, wet day. I sat there with Sally, we sat there, we two, and I said, how I wish we had something to do. Too wet to go out and too cold to play ball, so we sat in the house, we did nothing at all. So all we could do was to sit, and we did not like it, not one little bit. And then something went bump. How that bump made us jump. And we looked and we saw him step in on the mat. We looked and we saw him, the cat in the hat. And he said to us, why do you sit there like that? I know it is wet and the sun is not sunny, but we can have lots of good fun that is funny. I know some good games we could play, said the cat. I know some new tricks, said the cat in the hat. A lot of good tricks. I will show them to you. Your mother will not mind at all if I do. Then Sally and I did not know what to say. Our mother was out of the house for the day. But our fish said, no, no, make that cat go away. Tell that cat in the hat you do not want to play. He should not be here. He should not be about. He should not be here when your mother is out. Now, have no fear, said the cat. My tricks are not bad, said the cat in the hat. Why, we can have lots of good fun if you wish, with a game that I call Up with a Fish. Put me down, said the fish. This is no fun at all. Put me down, said the fish. I do not wish to fall. Have no fear, said the cat. I will not let you fall. I will hold you up high as I stand on a ball, with a book on one hand and a cup on my hat. But that is not all I can do, said the cat. Look at me now, said the cat. With a cup and a cake on top of my hat, I can hold up 2 books. I can hold up the fish and a little toy ship and some milk on a dish. And look, I can hop up and down on the ball. But that is not all. Oh no, that is not all. Look at me, look at me, look at me now. It is fun to have fun, but you have to know how. I can hold up the cup and the milk and the cake. I can hold up these books and the fish on a rake. I can hold the toy ship and a little toy man. And look, with my tail, I can hold a red fan. I can fan with the fan as I hop on the ball. But that is not all. Oh no, that is not all. That is what the cat said. Then he fell on his head. He came down with a bump from up there on the ball. And Sally and I, we saw all the things fall. And our fish came down too. He fell into a pot. He said, do I like this? Oh no, I do not. This is not a good game, said our fish as he lit. No, I do not like it, not one little bit. Now look what you did, said the fish to the cat. Now look at this house. Look at this. Look at that. You sank our toy ship, sank it deep in a cake. You shook up our house and you bent our new rake. You should not be here when our mother is not. You get out of the house, said the fish in the pot. I like to be here. Oh, I like it a lot, said the cat in the hat to the fish in the pot. I will not go away. I do not wish to go. And so said the cat, so, I will show you another good game that I know. And then he ran out, and then fast as a fox, the cat in the hat came back in with a box. A big redwood box. It was shut with a hook. Now look at this trick, said the cat. Take a look. Then he got up on top with the tip of his hat. I call this game Fun in a Box, said the cat. In this box are 2 things I will show to you now. You will like these 2 things, said the cat with a bow. I will pick up the hook and you will see something new. 2 things, and I call them Thing 1 and Thing 2. Those things will not bite you. They want to have fun. Then out of the box came Thing 2 and Thing 1, and they ran to us fast. They said, how do you do? Would you like to shake hands with Thing 1 and Thing 2? And Sally and I did not know what to do, so we had to shake hands with Thing 1 and Thing 2. We shook their 2 hands, but our fish said, no, those things should not be in this house. Make them go. They should not be here when your mother is not. Put them out, said the fish in the pot. Have no fear, little fish, said the cat in the hat. These things are good things, and he gave them a pat. They are tame, oh so tame. They have come here to play. They will give you some fun on this wet, wet, wet day. Now here is a game that they like, said the cat. They like to fly kites, said the cat in the hat. No, not in the house, said the fish in the pot. They should not fly kites in a house. They should not. Oh, the things they will bump. Oh, the things they will hit. Oh, I do not like it. Not one little bit. Then Sally and I saw them run down the hall. We saw those 2 things bump their kites on the wall. Bump, thump, thump, bump, down the wall in the hall. Thing 2 and Thing 1, they ran up, they ran down. On the string of one kite, we saw Mother's new gown. Her gown with the dots, they are pink, white, and red. Then we saw one kite bump on the head of her bed. Then those things ran about with big bumps, jumps, and kicks, and with hops and big thumps, and all kinds of bad tricks. And I said, I do not like the way that they play. If mother could see this, oh, what would she say? Then our fish said, look, look, and our fish shook with fear. Your mother is on her way home. Do you hear? Oh, what will she do to us? What will she say? Oh, she will not like it to find us this way. So do something fast, said the fish. Do you hear? I saw her, your mother is near. So as fast as you can, think of something to do. You'll have to get rid of thing 1 and thing 2. So as fast as I could, I went after my net. And I said, with my net, I can get them, I bet. I bet with my net, I can get these things yet. Then I came down on my net. It came down with a plop, and I said to them, at last I had them. These 2 things had to stop. And then I said to the cat, now you do as I say. You pack up those things and you take them away. Oh dear, said the cat, you did not like our game. Oh dear, what a shame, what a shame, what a shame. Then he shut up the things in the box with the hook, and the cat went away with a sad kind of look. That is good, said the fish. He has gone away, yes, but your mother will come. She will find this big mess. And this mess is so big and so deep and so tall, we cannot pick it up. There is no way at all. And then who was back in the house? Why, the cat. Have no fear of this mess, said the cat in the hat. I always pick up all my playthings, and so I will show you another good trick that I know. Then we saw him pick up all the things that went down. He picked up the cake and the rake and the gown and the milk and the strings and the books and the dish and the fan and the cup and the ship and the fish. And he put them away. Then he said, that is that. And then he was gone with a tip of his hat. Then our mother came in and she said to us two, did you have any fun? Tell me, what did you do? And Sally and I did not know what to say. Should we tell her the things that went on that day? Should we tell her about it? Now, what should we do? Well, what would you do if your mother asked you? The end. I hoped you liked The Cat in the Hat. Thanks for listening.
Hi, my name is Meghan Barnes, and I am going to be reading How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. This is one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, Grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, All the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beef, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick. With his coat and this hat, I look just like St. Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, get up, and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first thing to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimbley. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney, himself the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 15:15 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he was Grinchishly humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two, and then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came somehow or other. It came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. And that's how the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss.